Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, 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 and blessed beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, namaste and good evening. Welcome to our Wednesday evening reading and discussion of Bhagavad Gita. We've made a little progress into the book. Swayam Didi will be our reader, bless her heart, and she will tell us where we are. Just the page number, because that changes from edition to edition of the book, but chapter and verse, so to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, dear.
Okay, good, because my computer is acting a little strange. My video won't turn on, but so the page number of the chapter is chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Can you hear?
Yes. Chapter 3, Karma Yoga.
Can you hear me?
Yes, dear.
Yes, we hear you. What verse number?
Towards the.
Well, you're cutting.
It's towards the end.
You're cutting in and out, dear. You're cutting in and out. Perhaps you'd better sign off and try signing in again. See if you can get a better connection, a better node, as they call it.
Yeah, I'll just connect. It's chapter 3. Okay.
Okay. So are you with us? Are you back?
I think we lost her, Brother Shankara.
Well, I asked her to sign off and sign on again.
Maybe that's what she's doing, probably.
She may be having a problem. The Zoom is a great blessing, but it requires a strong internet connection. There she is again. So can we hear you this time?
Can you hear me now? I just connected from my iPhone. My laptop is not so. Okay. Sorry everybody for the delay. We are into Karma Yoga, chapter 3, almost towards the end. The page in Swami Prabhavananda's book is page 52. And we had finished reading the poetry part. So it's starting from the prose or the description part. So I'm going to start now.
Please do.
This is Shri Krishna speaking. But when a man has found delight and satisfaction and peace in the Atman, then he is no longer obliged to perform any kind of action. He has nothing to gain in this world by action and nothing to lose by refraining from action. He is independent of everybody and everything. Do your duty always, but without attachment. That is how a man reaches the ultimate truth. by working without anxiety about results. In fact, Janaka, and in asterisks, Janaka is a royal saint mentioned in the Upanishads. In fact, Janaka and many others reached enlightenment simply because they did their duty in this spirit.
Now
Your
let's just pause there for a moment. If you read Swami Vivekananda's collection of talks gathered together and published as Karma Yoga, you will find a story. This is Krishna, I'm sure, is not pointing directly at this when he says many others, but King Janaka, of course, was Kshatriya, a high caste person, very noble. So it's not so surprising, would it be, that he would achieve illumination. But in Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga, we find the story of the lowest caste human being. He is a butcher by trade. And he is illumined. The story goes that a sadhu is directed to him by one of his disciples, and the sadhu, the spiritual aspirant, the monk, goes and finds him and is shocked that this butcher is a spiritual teacher and an illumined soul. But he trusts the disciple. There's reason, as you read this story, there's reason for him to trust her. And so he goes forward and waits until the butcher has finished his work for the day, and then accompanies him home, and finds that the butcher says that he achieved the state that he is in, this realized state, simply by serving his parents. That's all he had done. He practiced no spiritual disciplines other than daily, devoted, loving service to his aging parents. And so there's actually a scripture, a subscripture, a Shmiti, in the Sanatana Dharma called the Butcher's Gita. Swami Vivekananda mentions it. This is how powerful Karma Yoga is. This is the reason that Swami Vivekananda includes this in that talk that is then included in that book, Karma Yoga. And for those of you who are interested in Karma Yoga as a path for yourself, as a way of doing in addition to whatever else you might be doing, I highly recommend reading Swami Vivekananda's book. It's quite short. It's very poignant, very heart-touching. So if there's anyone, as I said, reading about Janaka, we expect someone of his stature and nobility to be able to achieve much. They already have great gifts and attributes of concentration and mastery, self-mastery. Otherwise, they wouldn't hold that position, wouldn't be born to that status. But this is why in Karma Yoga, Swami Vivekananda includes this story of a butcher, the very lowest of the low in the society of Indian caste, the Indian caste system. So any comments or questions or concerns about any of that, about the ability to achieve realization simply by doing, as Sri Krishna says, simply by doing your duty.
You are right, Brother Shankara. I don't think that it has anything to do with the caste. It is mostly the faith and the purity of our heart. That's what I always heard. Those are the things that is very important to purify ourselves to get closer to illumination.
Exactly. And as Sri Krishna will go on to explain in some great detail in the rest of chapter 3 and chapter 4, just exactly how this works. It's really a delightful read. And as I say, if you combine it with reading Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga, which has other very interesting and heart-warming and heart-filling stories. Swami Vivekananda was a great storyteller. And so he told these stories very movingly. So you're absolutely right, Haima. It is a process of purification, doing your duty in this way. Anything else from anyone? Anyone else have a comment or question or concern?
I have a comment, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
This doing the duty itself is something to think about. Say, for example, I'm bathing or changing my granddaughter. If I think that it is my duty as a grandmother to change, then I'm still not totally detached. If I think of I'm just changing the diaper and it's the divine which is actually doing it or something of that sort, would that be a way to do the contemplation and detach from even the doing as a duty, but doing it as an action?
Well, yes, doing it sacramentally, offering it as an action to the divine being. What does it mean to do something sacramentally? To see the divine manifestation within the outward form of the action and the items that are involved. So this, though it is a task that we would normally have aversion to, changing a diaper and so on, if we do it in this spirit, it does indeed change our vision of it and our being with it, how we abide with it. So you're absolutely right, dear. If you do it in that spirit, particularly as Sri Krishna will say, and not so very much further on, do it sacramentally. Thank you, Swayam. Anything else from anyone?
On a side note, Brother Shankara, once when I was changing the diaper, my daughter-in-law was, I guess, kind of feeling, I don't know the exact word, but thinking that I might not like doing that. So I told her that when I was practicing, I have changed so many diapers, so I'm quite an expert and not to worry about that.
Well, what Swayam means when she was practicing, she practiced for many years as a pediatrician, an MD. And so, yes, of course, a pediatrician is going to take care of a lot of babies and change a lot of diapers. Bless their hearts.
So, shall I continue?
If there are no other comments or questions, indeed you should.
Okay. So this is the last sentence of that paragraph. Your motive in working should be to set others by your example on the path of duty. Whatever a great man does, ordinary people will imitate. They follow his example. Consider me. I'm not bound by any sort of duty. There is nothing in all the three worlds which I do not already possess. Nothing.
Now, hold on just one moment. Just in case everyone isn't familiar with the language here, there is nothing in all the three worlds. We think of the three worlds as the worlds of waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. In fact, they are three realms of actual existence. We don't think of our dream world as having a reality, but in fact it does, and you can even learn to control it. There are ways to become a lucid dreamer. Now, the unconscious state, or a latent subconscious state, is a more mysterious place and is accessible only through some very difficult practices, we're told, particularly through Tantra. Now, Tantra is misunderstood as being something having to do with sex. There's that component to it, but that's very late on in the practice of Tantra. There are 64 disciplines, and there are disciplines that have to do with gaining control of your latent unconscious or subconscious or unconscious state. So these are the three worlds. We're very familiar with the world of our waking state. We're all familiar with, but many of us do not believe in, the world of our dream state. I'm not suggesting you should believe in it. There's not any question of shoulds here, but it is, in fact, a different world or realm. And this is what Sri Krishna is alluding to, that in all of these three realms, of course, which he is the master of all three, Sri Ramakrishna, through his tantric practices, also became a master of all three. This is what Sri Krishna is gesturing to. There's nothing in any of those realms that he does not already possess, because he's the master of the universe, of course. But he's saying that in spite of that, he continues to act. So I would ask you, Swayam, to read that sentence again from the beginning.
Sure. Whatever a great man does, ordinary people will imitate. They follow his example. Consider me. I'm not bound by any sort of duty. There is nothing in all the three worlds which I do not already possess. Nothing I have yet to acquire, but I go on working nevertheless. If I did not continue to work untiringly as I do, mankind would still follow me, no matter where I led them. Suppose I were to stop, they would all be lost. The result would be caste mixture and universal destruction. The ignorant work for the fruit of their action. The wise must work also, without desire, pointing man's feet to the path of his duty. Let the wise beware, lest they bewilder the minds of the ignorant. Hungry for action, let them show by example how work is holy, when the heart of the worker is fixed on the highest.
When the heart of the worker is fixed on the highest. This is the whole idea of karma yoga. that we, instead of having our attention fixed on the mundane and the actions that we're performing and the results of those actions, and being attached to the actions themselves and their results, of course we have to do them with attention, with care, with, as Holy Mother said, be calm and thoughtful, thorough and complete. All of these things, yes, this is all part of karma yoga. Calm and thoughtful, thorough and complete, but not attached. So this is how we bewilder ourselves. And if we bewilder ourselves, then we bewilder others because of our involvement with action and our sense of self-importance and attachment to the actions themselves and their results. Now, of course, that will arise in any of us because of the gunas. The gunas are what is doing, as Sri Krishna points out. They are the doers, not ourselves. But in that moment, we may see ourselves as the doer and be very involved, frustrated, angry because we're not getting what we think we should get, or not things are not going the way we think they should go. All those things are possible. Well, the thing, when that arises, let it arise and then pass away. Any comments or questions about any of that? All right, dear, please read those lines again and then read on.
Brother,
Yeah.
Yes,
brother,
Steve.
I had one question, and I don't want to, if you want to pass over this, fine. I'm just, it stood out to me, this caste mixture. I did not understand the importance of that. The result would be caste mixture and universal destruction, as if those two there's some relationship, that they both seem to be negative, have negative connotations.
Well, caste mixture within the traditional culture of India, you do not marry outside your caste. You do not even eat with, if you're a high caste Brahmin, you do not even eat with people of other castes. Of course, Sri Ramakrishna, in his incarnation, began to do away with all of this. Because, well, in a sense, we are participants in this universal destruction that is the end of the Kali Yuga. But caste mixture in traditional Indian society was anathema. You simply did not, the other castes were there. They had their duties. They were to do their duties. There were 4 castes, basically. They had subsets, of course. But there were the Brahmins, the highest caste, the Kshatriyas, the rulers and administrators, the lawyers, and so on. The merchants who provided goods and sustenance for everyone and made a living that way. And then the Shudras, the lowest caste, that were the laborers. They were the ones who dug the ditches, dug the wells, cleaned the latrines, and so on. So there was no mixture of those castes in traditional Indian society and culture, particularly at the time that Krishna was speaking, which is approximately 5,000 years ago. It was anathema for the castes to mix socially, or especially not in marriage. So I think that answers the question, Stephen.
Thank you.
Anything
But,
else?
yeah,
Yes.
Brother Shankara, I know this whole topic is very complex, but from what I have sort of read is that the rigidity of the caste came later on. Originally, the way the caste system worked was based on people's inclination. They took on these professions, but within um, each sort of caste, everybody had the right to reach a higher state. I don't know about the physicality and all that, but there was no demeaning somebody from a lower work, so to speak. It was just the inclination. And also, what I read was, suppose somebody was born into the family of a goldsmith. The father would be so good at it, the delicate work of art, and then the child would be exposed to it from an early age. So he or she would be, mostly he, I guess, would become an expert by the age of 6 or 7. And so the tradition would continue on. So the family business or the expertise would carry on from generation to generation. Now then it broke, and so they would have to go do something else. So all this industrialization, mass production and all that. But the way the caste came to be subsequently, where it was discriminatory, was not the way it was originally intended to be.
Yes, exactly. When the divine being as Manu established the caste system, it was fluid, as you say. There was social mobility from the lowest caste to the highest, and as you say, it was based on inclination and a sense of duty. What, as you said, what family you were born into gave some indication as to your swadharma, the vector of your life. But it did not mean that you couldn't aspire to something higher. And there are stories in the Puranas and in the Mahabharata of people who were born to low castes. There's the story of a low caste mother who was fraternized with many men. She had a son. He did not even know who his father was. His mother couldn't tell her. She couldn't tell him. And so, but he aspired to be a Brahmin. So he goes to a Brahmin and applies to be trained. And the Brahmin says, "Who is your father?" And he tells his mother's story. And so the Brahmin says, "Only someone who is pure of heart and is fit to be a Brahmin would be able to tell this truth to me." And so he accepted him as a student. So yes, that fluidity was there. By the time that Krishna is speaking, which is at the end of the Bronze Age, the end of the, now I've forgotten the Sanskrit for the words.
Yuga.
Yeah, I know the Yuga, but what is this Sanskrit for that age?
Treta Yuga, Brother Shankara? Treta?
Treta Yuga, right, the third Yuga. By the time at the end of the Treta Yuga, the third age or Bronze Age, when Krishna is speaking, there's real rigidity, and Dharma is one of the things that is an aspect of this is adharma, that is unrighteousness, is overcoming righteousness. And this is betrayed even in the Kurukshetra war. Many of these people did not behave as righteous warriors. They did whatever they needed to do to win, even the Pandavas, even the good guys. And so it was, and this of course was why Krishna appeared, to restore righteousness and offer us these teachings that come down to us as Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, Swayam. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears. Let's read on.
Okay. Every action is really performed by the gunas. Man, deluded by his egoism, thinks, I am the doer. But he who has the true insight into the operations of the gunas and their various functions knows that when senses attach themselves to objects, gunas are merely attaching themselves to gunas. Knowing this, he does not become attached to his actions. The illumined soul must not create confusion in the minds of the ignorant by refraining from work. The ignorant, in their delusion, identify the Atman with the gunas. They become tied to the senses and the action of the senses. Shake off this fever of ignorance. Stop hoping for worldly rewards. Fix your mind on the Atman. Be free from the sense of ego. Dedicate all your actions to me. Then go forward and fight. If a man keeps following my teaching with faith in his heart and does not make mental reservations, he will be released from the bondage of his karma.
Okay,
But
now wait just a moment. Let's read this again and hear another one of Sri Krishna's huge promises. He makes this promise. You don't have to do this perfectly, follow his teachings, but you have to do it without mental reservations. You have to ignore your doubts, in other words. Doubts are an absolute feature of the left mind. That they come and they are, of course, created by the gunas. The gunas attach themselves or influence or stimulate your mental impressions, your samskaras. But if you do your best to follow Sri Krishna's teachings, hear what he says will be the result. Please read that again.
if a man keeps following my teaching with faith in his heart and does not make mental reservations, he will be released from the bondage of his karma.
Faith
But
in his heart. In other words, you're following the inclination of your heart rather than yielding to the doubts of the mind. These are the two aspects of ourselves that I say over and over again. A spiritual aspirant must be able to hold two thoughts at once. There is the practical thought and all of that activity of the left mind. We can't say it doesn't exist. We have to be aware of it. We may ignore it, but we have to be aware of it. But it is the truth that represents itself as the inclination of our heart, which emerges as faith. So it is with faith in your heart that you follow the instructions and not yielding to the mental reservations. So I am pleased read it a third time.
sure.
And this time I won't interrupt.
If a man keeps following my teaching with faith in his heart and does not make mental reservations, he will be released from the bondage of his karma. But those who scorn my teaching and do not follow it are lost. They are without spiritual discrimination. All their knowledge is a delusion. Even a wise man acts according to the tendencies of his own nature. All living creatures follow their tendencies. What use is any external restraint? The attraction and aversion which the senses feel for different objects are natural. But you must not give way to such feelings. They are obstacles.
Okay, let's hold it there. I will interrupt at this point. Is there anything that anyone doesn't understand about what Krishna just said, or anything that you do want to offer us from your understanding, your wisdom, or experience that comments on what Sri Krishna has said? He said you will be released from the bondage of your karma. If you're released from the bondage of your karma, you are free. You are now free from the compulsion to return to human birth. You may choose to do it, but you're not compelled to do it. This is another time that Krishna makes this huge promise. So is there anything that anyone hasn't understood, or anything that anyone wants to say from their own understanding of this?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
I had written notes from our last reading of this. After the last sentence, I wrote, observe and accept. And the example I'm thinking of the top of my head is, if we are going through a place that has a stench, then of course we are going to smell the odor, the trench. But if we just observe and say, yes, this is not a very pleasant smell, and just pass on without getting aversion and overly turned off by it, I guess that is putting into practice this observe and release and not get aversion attached.
Precisely. And notice how Sri Krishna is very understanding and even loving in his acceptance of the fact that we're going to experience attraction and aversion. We're going to experience it, but we must not be trapped by it. We must, as you said, observe, accept, and release. Release there may be a stench in the air. Certainly sometimes when you're changing diapers, there is a pronounced stench in the air. So all of this is a reality. Anything else from anyone? All right, dear, would you read that last again and then read on?
The attraction and aversion which the senses feel for different objects are natural, but you must not give way to such feelings. They are obstacles. It is better to do your own duty, however imperfectly, than to assume the duties of another person, however successfully. Prefer to die doing your own duty. The duty of another will bring you into great spiritual danger. That's the end of that section of Sri Krishna's talking.
Is there anyone who doesn't understand why doing the duty of another will bring you into great spiritual danger.
This is the part that is difficult to hold clearly. The duty, as what is one's duty, the swadharma, because it changes every role that we take on. So when Krishna says, don't do another's duty, could you explain with maybe some concrete examples what he could have meant by if you do others' duty?
If you look at others and envy their success, and so want to do what they're doing so that you will achieve that kind of success, what is all that betray? You're not following Krishna's instructions at all. You're attached to success, and attached, if you're frustrated with what you're doing and it's not going well, it's unsuccessful, you're not accepting the fact that this is the action of the gunas. So you say, well, I'll do this other. It's easy for me to do this and be successful. Now you've made that decision in whatever realm of life. As you say, there are all kinds of upadhis, all kinds of roles that we take. It doesn't matter what the role is. If you just look at what's the next thing for you to do in your own life, what is in the next moment, what is there for me to do, without looking beyond that moment or beyond that. If it's time to unload the dishwasher, then you unload the dishwasher. If it's time to change the diaper, you change the diaper. So then you don't have to worry about, am I doing my duty or not doing my duty? This is the next thing that is apparent to me that needs done. But if instead you look beyond that moment and say, I'm not satisfied with this moment and what is needed for me to do in this moment. I want to be more successful. I want more material reward or more name and fame, more honor, more this, whatever it is that you identify with that success. That's why Sri Krishna says it brings you into such spiritual danger, because now you have abandoned all of the teachings that he's given you, and you are following your own desire for something that is not auspicious for you. Does that get it, Swami?
Yes, beautifully explained, Brother Shankara. Doing what needs to be done at that moment. Thank you.
Yes, well, that's really the key to living daily life, is just do what is the next thing that needs to be done. Just look into the moment. What is it that needs to be done right now? And often it's very humble. As the Zen saying goes, before awakening, chop wood, carry water. Two very humble tasks to support the monastic community of which you're part. Before awakening, chop wood, carry water. After awakening, chop wood, carry water. So we most of what we do is not very, quote, important, unquote. Most of what we do in our daily lives is simply one bit and piece, one after the other, of creating a livable, for ourselves and for those who live with us, live with and around us, What comes next? What do I do next? And it's not often difficult to discern. Anything
Right.
else? Yes.
Well, I have a question on this point. I'm trying to relate this, and maybe you could relate it to parents in relation to children, especially adult children.
Mhm.
Do you have, are you able to apply it to that in some way? You know, seeing.
What is the question, Stephen? I mean, that's very vague what you just said.
Well, I mean, for
Children.
instance, yeah, children in the sense of if you think your adult children, and particularly young adult children, like in their 20s or 30s, are making some bad decisions of a serious nature, trying to advise them or guide them.
Here's what Swami
Yeah.
Prabhavananda teaches, Stephen. This is not from the Gita. This is one of the aphorisms of Swami Prabhavananda. And it relates directly to what you're saying. People have a right to their pain and suffering. Do not try to remove it. Sustain and comfort. I'll repeat it. People have a right to their pain and suffering. Do not try to remove it. Sustain and comfort. So if these adult children need something in the way of sustaining, they can't pay their rent because of the bad decisions they're making, and you have the resources to help them pay their rent, very well help them with their rent. If they're feeling lost and abandoned by life because they've had a bad breakup with someone, and you can reach out to them and assure them that you are always there for them, that you constantly and unconditionally love them, as close to unconditionally as you can. That's what's meant by comfort, that kind of thing. People have a right to their pain and suffering. Do not try to remove it. Sustain and comfort. Why do people have a right to their pain and suffering? It is through pain and suffering that we learn. And we do not learn much from happiness.
I think the perfect example would be enabling people that are in active addiction.
Yes, exactly. If you try to fix them by enabling them, it simply leads to their destruction.
Yeah, and if you deny the consequences, they're never going to have the desperation to do what it takes to change.
And the horrible part of it is you may have to watch them die. They may get cirrhosis of the liver and die. They may get hepatitis C and live a life of misery and then finally death. It's very hard to watch the addicted, very hard. That's why there's something called Al-Anon. It's the companion organization to Alcoholics Anonymous. And as you've heard often said from here, Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon are two of the most noble and inspired applications of practical spirituality that exist in the world today. So if you do have friends or adult children or whoever it is that is in an addicted situation, please go to Al-Anon. Please become part of Al-Anon, because you will find a congregation, a sangha, a community that understands and supports you in not trying to fix the addict. They convince you that if you try to remove the conditions that are causing the addiction, you only make the situation worse. So does that answer your question, Stephen?
Yes, very much so. I appreciate the part, about the sustain and comfort, and at the same time not enabling them to harm themselves.
Yes, well, the Swami Prabhavananda was an illumined soul. These aphorisms of his are, for me, scripture. People have a right to their pain and suffering. Do not try to remove it. Sustain and comfort. And it may test your heart, it may test your resources, but do not violate your own boundaries. Do not allow this person to make you a doormat. That is enabling. So you sustain and comfort them to the extent that you are comfortable doing so. Your compassion must not turn to victimhood.
Also detaching from the results.
Yes, oh yes. But this is why I say you may have to watch, as I did my younger brother Evan. You may have to watch them die. And it's very, very difficult and painful. Anything else from anyone? Okay, before I forget to mention it, I do, while everyone is here that might attend Arati tomorrow evening, Arati will be at 6 o'clock. Arati will be at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. The reason being there's a board meeting of the trustees of this organization at 6:30 that I need to attend. So we'll do Arati from 6 to 6:20 or so. Then I can attend that board meeting. I mean, I'm expected to, as resident minister, attend the board meetings of the trustees so that they can ask me questions and I can make comments. So tomorrow evening, Arati at 6 p.m. for those of you who join for Arati. Okay. Anything else from anyone before we read on? Okay, read those last few lines again, please, Swayam, and then you said that was the end of that section.
No, that was the end of, yes, that section of Krishna's, but then
Right.
there's few more, couple more paragraphs to end the chapter.
Very good. Well, we'll hear those. We have time enough to hear those.
Okay. It is better to do your own duty, however imperfectly, than to assume the duties of another person, however successfully. Prefer to die doing your own duty. The duty of another will bring you into great spiritual danger. Then Arjuna asks, Krishna, what is it that makes a man do evil, even against his own will, under compulsion, as it were? And Sri Krishna answers, the Rajoguna has two faces, rage and lust, the ravenous, the deadly. Recognize these. They are your enemies. Smoke hides fire, dust hides a mirror, the womb hides the embryo, by lust the Atman is hidden. Lust hides the Atman in its hungry flames, the wise man's faithful foe. Intellect, senses, and mind are fuel to its fire. Thus it deludes the dweller in the body, bewildering his judgment. Therefore, Arjuna, You must first control your senses, then kill this evil thing which obstructs discriminative knowledge and realization of the Atman. The senses are said to be higher than the sense objects. The mind is higher than the senses. The intelligent will is higher than the mind. What is higher than the intelligent will? The Atman itself. You must know him who is above the intelligent will. Get control of the mind through spiritual discrimination. Then destroy your elusive enemy who wears the form of lust. And that's the end of the chapter.
Okay. So in these paragraphs, we've heard the answer to the question that will be posed on Sunday for the talk. Then the question is, must the karma yogi practice meditation? The only way to gain spiritual discrimination is to gain control of your attention, to begin to understand what deserves your attention. And what deserves your attention is what the Atman, the Saguna Atman, will direct it to. When the Saguna Atman is freed from its involvement with such as the Rajoguna. The Rajoguna, as it says, hides the Atman as smoke hides fire, as the womb hides the embryo, as dust hides a mirror. So lust for things of the world, lust for whatever it is that you lust for. It doesn't have to be physical mating with another human being. That is not the limitation of the word lust. We lust after many things, name and fame, money, as Sri Ramakrishna says. All human beings are mad for something. Mad for family, mad for their name and fame, their pride of lineage, whatever it is they're mad for. He said, yes, we must all be mad because the life of time, space, and causation is a form of madness, as we were reading last night in studying the gospel. Life within time, space, and causation is a form of madness. But Sri Ramakrishna says, since you must be mad for God. Be mad for God, which is what Sri Krishna is saying in gentler terms. Focus your attention on the Atman and avoid the perils of the Rajoguna. Any final thoughts from anyone?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
It's intriguing use of the word faithful foe.
Yes,
Lust,
I like that too.
wise man, faithful foe.
Right.
Because you think faithful is a good thing.
Well, the Rajoguna has faith in itself. There's no two ways about it. It is vanity. The Rajoguna, one of the names for it is vanity. Vanity, vanity, all is vanity, as it says, I think, in Ezekiel. In any case, the Rajoguna definitely has faith in itself. Its vanity gives it that faith. So that's why Sri Krishna uses the word faithful foe. It definitely has faith in itself.
I'd love to read those few lines again. It's so poetic and beautiful.
Please read them again.
Yeah, and you can create a picture in the mind. Lust hides the Atman in its hungry flames, the wise man's faithful foe. Intellect, senses, and mind are fuel to its fire. Thus it dilutes the dweller in the body, bewildering his judgment.
The
So-
dweller in the body is the Atman.
So intellect, senses, and mind are actually fuel to the fire of lust.
Fire of Rajoguna, yes. So yes, and we'll start there again next week, even though because it segues nicely into the next chapter. Anything else from anyone?
I also find it interesting that this dialogue takes place as Arjuna is about to face his enemies on the battlefield. And then he sees them, he recognizes, whoa, these aren't my enemies, these are my friends here. And I can't kill them. And now Arjuna's telling him, rage and lust, recognize these, they are your enemies.
Yes. And if you think about the Kauravas, the Kurus, they are prisoners of rage and lust, jealousy, envy, all of those things that are a part of the Rajoguna. And so this is why they are indeed Arjuna's foes. They are indeed to be killed. Kill this evil thing, Sri Krishna says of the Rajoguna. Kill this evil thing. And how do we kill it? We stop watering it with our attention. We can't kill it by violence. If we treat our mind, our intellect, all of its tools violently, they will respond in kind. We can only kill that evil thing, as Sri Krishna will go on to explain to us, by redirecting our attention away from it. That's what he explains in detail in the next chapter. Anything else, dears? Thank you, Brahmadas. That was very apt. All right. Om Hari Om. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya. Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amrutangamaya. Abir Moiti. O dearly beloved Lord, lead us from this realm of endless noise and relentless deception to thine abode of silence, serenity, clarity, and peace. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. O lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. This is our prayer to that which within ourselves is the Atman. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we know we are always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Hari Om Tat Sat. Oh, beloved, make it so. So I remind you that tomorrow evening, those of you who join for Arati Arati will be at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. tomorrow night, not 7. Anything else from anyone before we close? All right, dears. Until tomorrow evening, for those of you who join for Arati, or until Saturday at noon, for those of you who join us for the class on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And then on Sunday, of course, the question will be answered, must a karma yogi, must a karma yogi practice meditation? Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Thank you, dears.